Alright, so I'll probably try to play for about an hour or so before I go to bed.
I'm just trying to make a living.
If I remember what I was doing.
Just a little fun at my expense, folks. Please don't arrest me.
Pack up your stinking toxic fish and shove off, or I just might.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we got a heart down south of us that we gotta do.
Surprisingly inexpensive fish for sale here.
We're missing a vista as well.
Don't all crowd me at once. Plenty of perfectly edible fish to go around.
Something interesting to me though is, so I was messing around with builds while I was at work on a laptop. What I've managed to do is, if you take warrior gear, and I was using the ascended warrior gear, or not warrior gear, soldier gear, crappy armor, soldier gear, right? And you spec it raises your HP pool by quite a bit. You get a little bit under like 4,000 power, so it might be a little bit less than Berserker, but you can still spec and get 300% ferocity, and then you can have your crit on weapon swap sigils and your crit on burst skill sigils. So you can have high HP, high armor, high power, and high burst damage with that fairly easily, which I find interesting. And then the second part is that we did one with a Sentinel build, and the Sentinel build has less power than the Soldier build, but has a lot more health, so you can get like 4,000 health on it. Now, not for that, 40,000 health. But what I learned on that is that you can get up to something like 200% burst damage with Sentinel gear. So you can still probably hit like a 10k, something like that. I'm going to say probably 10k burst, and then Soldier can probably do something more like 15k burst. But with Soldier gear, or Sentinel gear, you get the bigger amounts of HP. You're still going to have a decent amount of burst damage. And then if you run Defender Ruins and you block, so each, like if you decided to run, say, like Sword, Mace, Shield, every block that you have is going to give you 4,000 health. And with those weapons, you can continuously block pretty much on repeat. So you can just keep regenning 40,000 health. In contrast, or not 40,000, 4,000 health. So in contrast, shout heals with just a Celestial Warrior. One shout was healing for 2,000. And then with the Tempest Ruins and we were breaking out of stuns, we were healing for 1,100. So with the blocking setup, you could actually heal for more than shout heals would with that much health. and you'd still be doing a decent amount of burst damage as well. So that's also a big thing. And then if you wanted to lower your total damage output, you can also spec for might healing with that, because we're going strength, arms, and defense. That's kind of what I'm piecing together at the moment. And I think it'd probably be fairly decent. I mean, it's not going to be like the highest DPS in the world, but the thing is that if you were to fight a DPS character,
Can I help you?
your actual build with the Sentinel gear. I only did this with the Sentinel gear. If you don't run the Defender setup and get that 5% of your health every time that you block, if you run durability ruins and you're in a group of 5 warriors or whatever, you will get 15 seconds of protection. And then you also get quickness on your skill. So in your defensive trait line, when you use a burst skill on somebody, you're going to apply AoE weakness on them. So what happens is, if you look at the power, I don't know if I have it on here or not. If you look at the damage calculation for Guild Wars 2, so weapon strength times power times the specific skill coefficient divided by target's armor. Now, with great swords, for instance, you're getting 1100 like weapon damage on it, and warriors start off with 1000 armor, so you're already kind of negating the weapon in general. But you can see, like, if you have sentinels or soldier gear, you'll have 3000 to 3500 armor, something like that. It's not the highest armor stat, but it is fairly high in armor. You're going to be able to do more than just their weapon strength alone. So what I did is I went off of the weapon strength of 1100, their power, I did 4000 or so, because I know it's possible to get a warrior over 4000 power. Then your specific skill coefficient, I did 4 times damage, which is going to be basically bigger than 90% of their skills are going to do. And then you have divided by target's armor. And when you do this, with me doing 4 times damage coefficient, you can get the damage just with the armor and stuff alone that you're wearing down to like 2000 damage from what this would have. So a warrior with 4000 power or whatever is only going to do, like, in a 4 times coefficient, is only going to do 2000 or so damage. But then if you apply weakness on top of that, they have a 50% like blunt, like miss strike thing, which is like half damage or something. And then you get protection, which is a 33%. But the difference is that I don't think it applies like a defensive buff would. Like, it's not a multiplicative stacking defensive buff. It's a 33% protection for yourself, and then you have a negative damage debuff on the enemy. So I don't think it necessarily is multiplicative. I don't know 100%, but if it isn't, you can basically get people's damage down to like 500 damage in a strike. And if you're running a defensive build that runs like balance stance or endure pain, you can basically just nullify all of their crit chance, and you're basically on even footing with them. So all it's going to matter is their power, and then your burst damage and their burst damage. But if you're immune to critical hits, their burst damage isn't going to do anything to you. You're still going to have just as much damage as they do, though, which is really good. But the fact is that you have like 40,000 health. You're going to be taking a ton less damage than someone else that has like a similar power level to you. And then if you run the Defiance runes, you're going to be healing for 4,000 each block. So shield stance can block at least 3 auto attacks in 3 seconds. So that's already 12,000 health, which is basically a heal skill. And then if you have like the mace block and the sword block, the mace block has like a 6 or an 8-second cooldown, and the sword block has like a 15-second cooldown. And you can lower that with the arms trait if you want. But each of those are going to be an additional 4,000. And if reflections, I don't know if it works, but if damage reflections work, and you don't want to do weakness, and you can block and reflect projectiles with each of those blocks. If each of those trigger that ruin, that means you'll be able to regen even more health. But basically, you're going to have blocks on like a pretty consistent rotation that are going to give you like 4,000 blocks of health back. And then on top of that, you have Defiant Stance, which when you activate it, absorbs all incoming strikes and heals you. So you're basically already going to have like 50,000 plus health, because you also have adrenal health. And then if you're doing the durability runs, you get like 3 seconds to 15 seconds, depending on how many people you have, of regen plus protection. So you're going to be taking a lot of reduced damage on top of that anyway. And if you have 3 people with those durability runes, you're going to get 15 seconds of protection. But then in the warrior trait line, after you use a heal skill, you get 3 seconds of protection. So you're going to have basically almost infinite protection in a group, and pretty consistent regeneration in a group. But the adrenal health are healing you for like 6,000 or something over 15 seconds. So you're looking at 20,000 plus health over 15-20 seconds on a rotation pretty consistently. And then you can always activate Defiant Stance and regen all your health back. So you're looking at like at least like 100,000 health that somebody's going to have to burn through to get to you, while being on par damage-wise, at least with bursts, which it seems ridiculous to me. Like, I get that nobody uses it because DPS-wise, it's not going to be the best, but there's going to be absolutely zero chance you were ever going to die in any content in this game. Absolutely zero. There's no way. I doubt even like, as much like people talk about fractal health, like it's doing percentage health damage. I just don't see it killing you that fast. Now, to put this into perspective, skills were doing anywhere between 3,000 to 5,000 damage blunt with just power and might stacks. Okay? And that means that with the soldier gear doing 300 times damage, you're going to be able to do 15,000 plus damage on a burst skill or a crit. And then even without having even without having condition damage runes, your sword is doing like 4,000 to 5,000 damage just with bleeds. And this is on a core warrior. It's because I think personally core warrior is actually stronger than elite spec warrior. Just a little bit. Unless you want extra defense or just a bunch more burst damage, there's not really much point as far as I'm concerned. I don't know what that is. But yeah, that means you can do like 15,000 damage plus in bursts. And then with the Sentinel gear, it was doing like 3,000 or so damage, 3,300, 3,500 with a 2 times damage rate. So you might be able to get like a 10,000 damage burst. But the thing is that alone is enough to seriously hurt or kill a vast majority of players in combat. And if you have 5 warriors, that's 50,000 to 80,000 burst damage. absolutely ridiculous, you know? So on this warrior, the game plan is we are going to have probably soldier gear. I'm assuming soldier and rabid gear are probably going to be my first armors that I'm going to get. Then we're going to get berserker at some point because we're going to go sword, shield, great sword, berserker. And then I want to do aristocrat ruins on the sword, shield, great sword. And I'm thinking after that we will do sentinel gear. So on this warrior, soldier gear, sentinel gear, rabid gear, and berserker is the game plan. Really low tier gears that nobody has any respect for in this game, and we're gonna figure it out and use it. Because we got a pretty good gist. Because that rabid gear, we're going yeah. That Vista's over here.
Think you can stand against me?
Probably not, but I guess we'll have to see, don't we?
For the record, using Scum.
Back on my feet.
This'll confound you. You're kidding me, right?
Feet bandage, destroy turrets, and food supplies, set off mining explosives. Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha.
Dust.
Bandit pack mule.
You're king. Getting started.
Ooh, a spear. I actually need that. The gods shall provide.
Strong.
Alright. So I got a heart. I think that Vista is in this back corner, if I'm remembering correctly, but I don't remember off the top of my head. Well, we got an underwater weapon now, so I guess that's the main point we can take away here. Can't use Stomp. We can use Kick and Bolus. Clear tower debris to rescue quaggins, kill quaggin predators, and collect tasty crab meat. This weapon might be lacking in what we need it for. Can we? We can't get this yet.
Wagon thanks you.
Need 2 more for that. I guess I'll go ahead and get the axe since we don't have any other options. Getting some crab meat. I wonder how long they were under the debris. Is my real question. I'm gonna start collecting minerals while we're doing this as well. Just because it's something that I never do.
Others will avenge me. Wagon thanks you.
Dude, I'm so rusty on maps. I know I think there's like a tunnel, if I'm recalling correctly, somewhere. But I'm missing a hero point. I have no idea where this hero point is. Unless it's on top of this hill. Or maybe I didn't get credit for that portal over here in the corner. Oh, hero point earned. Oh, that's the wrong map. Nope. There's what? Oh yeah, the tunnel, yeah. It's on this side, right? It's like really far away for some reason. Yeah, there we go. Is there a hero point in here? Is it just a POI? I'm missing a hero point. Unless it's up here, there might be a hero point in one of these caves or something like this one. Well, I have the thing. I probably would have seen it. Or is there one like over here in this corner or something? Northeast. Oh, over here? Is it, yeah. Is it that cave with undead stuff in it? Or like the Int cave? I feel like I vaguely remember something like that, but I might be getting confused with the Norn area. I'll come back for that. I'm honestly not looking forward to doing any of the other cultural zones. I don't know what it is about me, but like I can do the human starting zones pretty consistently without getting super burnt out on it, but something about like the Asura and Sylvari and Norn areas just drain me. Like even like the Char, I just don't like it for some reason. Although I played the Char area probably the most on launch. Explosions, you say? Oh yeah, I gotta get this Vista. I forgot about it.
You're kidding, right?
I wasn't really wanting to use mounts, but maybe I should. East. Unexplored area in this direction. Yeah, I mean, I've did most of the map in the past at some point, but... Oh.
Time to blaze a trail.
I remember in the old days, you used to have big mobs of people that would just run around and do all the stuff, you know?
Strong.
Thank you, sir. Dude, my internet today. Oh, we got 2 of those night pieces. I got 1 more heart, and that'll be it for this map. I need to do the other cultural areas, but I really don't feel like it. And I'm only staying on for a little bit today, because I just got off work and decided to hop on for a minute. Destroy siege engines, defeat Centaur guards. Assault the camp, destroying anything possible.
Strong.
I mean, kind of, sort of. I mean, on launch, like most games, I remake characters a whole lot. So I made hundreds of characters and played the storyline repeatedly. Then I did PvP forever, 1v1 duels, and then I went to college, and I stopped playing in college. I had sports and all kinds of stuff. I got more into League of Legends. I played esports in college while I was playing football, so like I got into League of Legends and PUBG and stuff. And then when I came home, I was planning on just working a lot, and I got bored and didn't have anything to do in my free time. Came back, but that was like 3 years ago or 2 years ago. And that's when I made this Rome guild. So I tried to make some content for the game because everyone was sitting around bored. Basically, I left again when the pandemic hit. I couldn't keep playing. I was having financial issues. I got really sick at one point. Didn't have any health insurance, all that good stuff. Didn't have a job, burned through my savings. So it's a good time. It's a real good time. The guild ended up collapsing when I wasn't here. Yeah, it's alright. I mean, it's just I've been on my own for a while, and I ended up buying this house that I was in, and it was really kind of dirty and nasty. And I got laid off of my jobs when the pandemic hit because I was working 2 jobs. Is FC a guild? I haven't played Final Fantasy. My brother was super into Final Fantasy, but I haven't really. I played the originals and then some of the, what was it, like Final Fantasy 12 or whatever, when they had like the chicks in the flying spaceship that were like musicians. Played some of that. I got stuck. I literally couldn't pass a certain point and I stopped playing Final Fantasy after that. I remember the original Final Fantasy though. I used to like that game. Spells were kind of cool. Even if the combat was slightly annoying, like you step 2 steps and like you would forget what you were doing and you would walk back down the same way you went and have to fight the people over again. Oh.
Here for an expedition. Maybe to the east.
Expedition, eh? Normally. That's right.
Maybe they'll clear up before we get there.
Yeah, I think every game's gonna have problems. I have a number of things that I want to do, but it's gonna take me too long to do most of them. And if I could learn how to make a game, though, I have a whole game idea I would really like to build. And I could even build, I would start like in a 2D and then go to 3D if I could. But I have it, like 90% of it all flushed out in my head. Classes, skill systems, kind of a working lore theory. Ugh. Kill termites, uproot termites, feed prickly fruit to hungry moas. I want to get a group together just to come do these hard events and don't kill any of these creatures. So like each of y'all pull this out. You summon like 20 of these larvae in this starting zone and they just kill everything, you know? I've had a game plan to like try and kill all of the cities in Guild Wars 2 at some point, but it's extremely difficult to pull off because people just show up and ruin your progress constantly. I swear that like there has to be a hidden event somewhere that somebody hasn't ever seen before. Yeah. I want to kill all the cities. This all started with one simple thing, okay? This fort in Queensdale. I've sat in this fort for like years, just sitting there because I didn't know what to do with myself while in Guild Wars, so I did one event back and forth over and over again. You see that like the centaurs can take over these towers and stuff. Well, as the player base slowly expands out and there's less and less people to deal with like starting event areas, you're going to start seeing like different events pop up. And the big thing that always was like curious to me was that like when the game launched, you had those big zergs running around, you only saw one event the whole time. I was wondering if you could actually have an event that would make this fort be destroyed. And I was baiting these scales into the fort to kill all the citizens. And you can do that, but the players kept running through and killing them. And I tried it for like 2 or 3 weeks. It was super annoying. Now, I spawned in the other day right here, and there was an event going on at this fort. The centaurs were attacking it and destroying all the supplies and stuff. And I wanted to see what happened if it failed, but there was a guy there, and he ended up stopping the event before it could go through. But there's an event where the centaurs will attack supplies in this fort, and there's an event where the centaurs will attack this garrison here. But like, what is the stop zone? Like, what's the limit? You know, like if let's say ArenaNet ended up coming back and like changing the core maps to where the cities were like Cantha and they're not like their own separate zone, but you can like go in them. Cause like the centaurs get changed to where they could take over your main city, or like lay siege to it. You know. But yeah, I want to try and bait things in to kill all the NPCs in the forts, the towns. Like this town here, I don't know if there's anything close enough that you could get to come in here and kill all the NPCs. But yeah. But yeah, that game I want to try to make at some point. I downloaded Unreal Engine 5 just to see. And I could technically build the framework of the game, but I only know how to place blocks really slowly like Minecraft. And I was a good builder back in the day with Minecraft, so I could probably do that, but it would take me forever. But a 2D game, if I learned how to build 2D, might not be as bad, and if it sold good enough or was like a decent enough game, it might give me enough money to like pay people to help me program or whatever a 3D game. But I was planning on like trying to write a book or something to get the lore all flushed out, and if it like try to sell it or something. But I also like sent some messages to a couple different dev like teams that made pretty good games in the past that are all like independent. Never got any messages back though. But I really want to mix two kind of games that you never see mixed together that I really want. Like you never see it's like survival games and MMO type games like Guild Wars. I've never really seen them mixed together very well. Like there's survival games that have like character customization, but there's not like this fantasy type skill systems and stuff, you know? You know like Sword Art Online? Like I've downloaded the game for Sword Art Online, it's nothing like the movie, and it's kind of disappointing. And I got the basic ideas all flushed out for spells and everything else, basically. I mean, there's a few options that you could do, you know, depending. But basically, I want to make spells more like in survival games, generally, you can use whatever gear that you want, and there's no real problems with it. But if we do a class system, because you could either do a class system or make it to where you can just do whatever you want or like have attributes. But if you do a class system, you would make it to where only the classes that are specific to certain types of spells could capture those spells. But I want to make the economy and the like spell use system interconnected. So it's all based around crystals. And so like in a survival game, you'd pick up a gun and use it or whatever, and the durability would eventually go out. In my game, the crystals would be kind of like money. So you could use them to buy and sell things, but you could also use them to capture spells and stuff in the world and then use them like weapons or upgrade your gear and stuff like that. I think it's just an interesting way. And then like the map. Yeah. Well, and it also has like kind of something like there's a deal with warriors that tends to have like issues in a lot of games. Like warriors are seen as like the big DPS hitters and things, or they get like nerfed to the ground where they're not really like the best thing in the world. But in a game like that, it's like if your mages run out of magic, like they need somebody to help them go and gather magic, you know? But also like I don't want to limit what gear people can wear. So like my idea was basically that like if you have a warrior type character and you have a mage type character, the mage could still wear like heavy armor and use great swords and stuff if they want, but they'd be slower, less efficient with their weapon. But the big one would be like terrain elements. So like say you have like a ranger and you're fighting a warrior, and the ranger's more lightweight and can run faster, and the warrior might be able to actually like do something to catch them, but there's like a sand pit or something. There's like some sort of terrain that if you're over a certain weight limit affects your ability to move. And so it would be more tactical, like your terrain environments would be more tactical, you know? But also I have my class system is separated into like good and evil, but the storyline of everything, there isn't really an evil side.
There's one to remember me by.
I mean, I'm good at ideas, but I have too much on my plate in general. Like I just got a CNC machine to start doing woodwork, and I still building on my house, and then student loans are going to be coming up in the next, little bit. So this is a good bit, but basically though, like the storyline that I had planned on there, it's kind of like an undead army and like a human type army, right? And the world setting is more like modern human world settings. There wasn't any magic or anything in the past, but they kind of got trapped on the planet and they tried to escape using like a portal. And basically, a big force of people went into the portal to try and secure foothold in the new world. And things went wrong and they got slain and they come back as an undead force. And then they attacked the portal and destroyed it. And it ended up causing like basically a nuclear explosion type ordeal, which like sent people back to the Stone Ages. And then the undead forces basically gathered up dead corpses, turned them into like soldiers, and then the humans just slowly build back over time. And I want to make it to where there's not really a good or bad side in it. There's just like different viewpoints. And so they've been warring back and forth this whole time, thinking that like the undead people were super evil, but it's actually just going to be like two sides of one coin of a storyline, and I have three different endings that could potentially go down. And this opens up the possibility to have more modern type equipment alongside fantasy elements, because around the explosion zone there isn't going to be access to very many gears or anything. So you're going to have swords, shields, all that basic stuff. And then if you get past the story level zones, you get access to the big cities that are like the last remnants of like the ancient society with ancient tech, which would have like modern technology. That's basically the kind of idea that's going down. And I got a whole bunch of other stuff in my head about it. But the class system is separated where like you have knight, dark knight, warrior, barbarian, uh, ranger, and assassin. So like on a good karma side, on the human side, you'd have a ranger. On the bad side, you'd have an assassin. So they'll be sort of the same class, but they'll be opposite sides of the spectrum. And then you can have like a neutral middle ground. So like good karma people can take part in the human side of the storyline. Bad karma people can take part of the bad part of the storyline, the undead armies. But there's also going to be like a middle ground, which is like the two in between zones where it doesn't really matter what your karma is. It's a survival area. Yeah, I just don't know how to write. I haven't read books in like years, like storybooks, so I don't remember how exactly to write stories. But I'm definitely open to it.
Welcome to Astoria.
The main idea, though, is I'm trying to combine survival elements and MMO elements. Like survival players and MMO players have very similar issues when at the end of the game. So like survival players get bored when they get a bunch of gear and there's nothing to do. And like MMO players always want more content. But like in general, you're going to have access. But you can't force everyone to get involved in PvP or anything. Most people want a player house, and survival games tend to have like open world building. MMOs tend to not. So I want to separate the map where the starting zone and the middle is an open survival area, basically. And then in the four directions, basically when the explosion happens, the portal separates into four different otherworld portals. Each direction would have a different portal. That would be a storyline. So if you go that path, it's not a PvP zone. It's a storyline. But uh, I would have it to where you can have your solo story. You can play with a group with the story, or the third option would be PvP story. So the PvP zones would be part of the storyline and the good and evil sides fighting over access to these portals. So all that would be kind of in one. But in between each portal zone, like say like northeast, like the in-between zones, are going to be elemental areas that will be survival zones. And then for permadeath, okay, because a lot of people get upset with permadeath in games, but also I think a semi-permadeath feature has potential. So like if you ever played the original Diablos, if your character died, you had to like go back and get your body and then you get your stuff back or whatever. So the system would be either one, you could do it more like a survival game where when you kill a creature, you just get whatever's on it, but if you do it more like an MMO, it can be randomized. But if your character dies in the open world, the body stays there, and then you would respawn back and need to get access to your body again. So that would have you like, oh hey, can I party with you? I need to go there and get my body. Or you could like pay a bounty, and then if somebody runs across your body and manages it to bring it back to the city, they would get a cash reward for it, and then you could get your body back easier that way. Is kind of how I'm thinking about it. There's like little systems like that that kind of, you know, and I'm thinking that if your character is wearing the armor and your gear, it's going to be soulbound to your character, so it can't be removed. But if you have random stuff in your inventory, that can be taken. So if someone kills you or runs across your body, they can take the stuff out of your bag, but they can't take the armor and stuff that's on your character. Because people are going to gripe if they lose like their armor that takes forever. And for the weapon system and stuff, what I thought of, yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I did all of this in like 3 or 4 days, just me thinking, right? But I have like a Word document with all kinds of crap in it. But so like the weapon system, for instance, right? You spawn in the world, okay? So if you like, so the monsters and stuff aren't going to be like Guild Wars 2 monsters, you know, where they have an HP pool and you're like, oh, there's a monster, let me go kill it for XP. Because personally, I don't like leveling up in games very much. I like just getting into the action. So how the system would work is, uh, creatures are going to have certain weaknesses and strong points. Like they might have, so say your character is a warrior, right? If you're fighting me, it's not just going to be me with a big HP bar and you fighting me. It's if I'm wearing heavy armor, so I'm not a spellcaster. If I'm wearing heavy armor and I have like a fire stone or like an ice stone, I can modify my gear with certain stones that give them more resistances to certain sort of elements or damage. And if I'm fighting somebody and say I have like an ice stone enchanting my armor, like my each armor piece would be an individual armor piece. So like my left greave would have like an ice stone on it. And you have like a fire bow, you could shoot and destroy my greave and then take out my leg basically. Like you'd have a more in-depth healing system, right? So there'd be a basic healing system, like just bandages and stuff, just like any normal survival game. But then you'd also have healer classes that could come in and help heal you. And their purpose would be, if you have a healer, you don't necessarily have to carry around a bunch of bandages and shit with you. But the the monsters are going to be based around like elemental weaknesses and weak points. So when you fight a creature, you got to figure out how to kill it. And I think that would be a lot more interesting in the long run when you're trying to get out and about in the world. But when it comes to gear, I have a class, so people that like crafting, armor smiths and weaponsmiths, right? So those can be for good or evil factions. They're going to be able to craft gear. So there'll be tiers of gear. So say tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. And a basic sword just has like slash or something on it. Well, if you make it to these elemental portals or you fight a boss, elementalists and stuff can capture skills from the bosses inside the stones to use as weapons, but they could also use those stones to modify gear. So the armor and weaponsmiths would be able to attach those stones onto like swords and stuff and give them a unique special ability. And the thing is that instead of making the classes where everything is like super divided, the skills are unique. So it lets you focus more on the skills of the game and how they interact with weapons. So each weapon, say you start off with just this basic one thrust, and a craftsman makes a tier 1 gear out of like a firestone. Well, then maybe you get a fire slash or like a fireball that you can shoot out of your weapon. It could be completely random with like thousands of different skills. It doesn't matter. But how I want to make the game is that when the armor smith or weaponsmith makes the item, they get a like first edition item of it, like a rare limited edition item that they can name or whatever. And then depending on the tier of weapon it is, it would go into a loot pool. So whatever weapon that you craft, you get a guaranteed original copy, but then there's a percentage chance that players can find it in the open world. So the more players that make gear, the bigger the loot pools would get, and then the crazier all the combinations would get. And it would help like make variety and balance in the game. And then if you're playing a crafter like an armor smith or a weaponsmith, you got to have a reason to play them in combat. So what is going to be the benefit of having like an armor smith or a weaponsmith with you while you're traveling the world? So if there's durability on weapons and warriors are fighting against, creatures, they need repairs. So that's going to be one thing, is they're going to be in charge of repairing gear while healers would be in charge of healing the body. And then the other thing is during combat, armor smiths and weaponsmiths would be able to adjust your elemental damage and your elemental defenses mid combat. So if you needed to change your like fire type weapon to like an ice kind of damage weapon to do some damage, if you had an armor smith or like a weaponsmith with you, you could adjust your damage on the fly in combat to make you more effective. And I think that would be the gist of how the systems and stuff would work. But the class system, I don't remember off the top of my head, but I had like, I don't even know, like 16 classes or something crazy. But it's because they're split into good and evil factions. So the warrior, for instance, is a human, like good karma character, right? And then the evil version of that is the barbarian. And so the system works because the elemental zones, the human zone has like the earth element, so they have more heavy defenses and stuff like that, and access to poisons and things. And then the undead zone is the lightning element. They have more access to DPS type skills and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a whole lot of stuff. Okay, but I've fought 99% of the whole game out. I literally just need uh, people to help me make the thing. All I gotta do is make the thing. But I just think it'd be cool to like have to deal with like elements and stuff, keeping your character warm, stuff like that. Like food actually having a purpose when you travel. But like I don't know if it would be super annoying if like you had a randomized chance to like find like meat off of a dead animal. I think I would put like animal meat and stuff like basically 100% drop rate probably.
I smell undead approaching. Be ready.
There's a good balance that you have to have in between like challenge and like uses, you know, when you do stuff. If you make things too easy, the game gets boring, and if you make it too hard, people just don't play it. Except for like the super extreme people, like me. Kill pests. Mosquitoes. I sent a message to ANET as well at some point about it. Like, I wouldn't mind if they did it. They have good servers and stuff. They could probably do it. I really wish the people that made Scum would, like, be open to do it. Scum is a pretty good survival game. It already has all, like, the elements. It's already in Unreal Engine 4. Already has, like, a bulk of the survival mechanics installed. But yeah, the storyline, it's not like a good versus evil storyline like you'd think. Like, there's gonna be things that make you think that, but realistically, you're just all gonna die. Okay, like there's hope, but kind of not really as well. If I try to write a book, I have to come up with a map and like character names and small talk and all that stuff. That's the stuff that would get me. Like, I would need to like develop a whole wall of just strings to understand all my storylines and stuff. Unless I make the storyline like super basic. But the whole system, I want to work off parallels. Like, a Dark Knight and a Knight are basically the same character. It's just their skills are a little bit different, you know? So you get some variety, but it's not like... It would feel more like two classes, but it'd actually just be one class, you know? The two storylines are going to be kind of similar, but a little bit different. And then there's going to be a third option for the story as well, which is like the supposedly like proper ending, but I'm going to have a twist with it, basically. Essentially, I have 99% of everything like already planned. It's just the small details, like player names and what they look like and armor and art, all that stuff is where I'd be very iffy. If possible, I would like to like develop in-game tools that let characters like craft their own armor styles. Like, if you could find a way to like give people a character model in game and armor smiths and weaponsmiths could see visually and get access to like developer tools to build their item, I think that would be really cool. And it wouldn't necessarily be on me to do everything. I just need to build the system that people could use. Like, say like you're a tier 1 armor smith or like a weaponsmith, you just get access to like some basic shapes, some basic materials, basic handles. And then, like, once you get to, like, a legendary weaponsmith, then you get, like, crazy designs and stuff that you can do. I think that's the way you gotta do it. Also means that weapon and armor smiths would be really important at the first of the game. Honestly. But see, like, if you take Guild Wars 2, for example, I can come up with some reasonably interesting and, like, catching stories pretty quick, right? I can come up with god fights, dragon fights, whatever you want that would make the whole story pretty epic. But when it comes down to, like, these small details, like these mountains and hills and cities and stuff, I would have a lot harder of a time doing that because I wouldn't be able to, like, put artwork down to paper. You know? Like, I could probably come up with cities or something and, like, roads or whatever connecting them, but, like, the art design of everything, that would be completely kind of out of my league. Like, I would probably like some more realistic armors, but I'm gonna say I'm a professional armor person.
Undead are spreading from Morgan's spiral like weeds. Go and see what you can do to stop their advance.
Burn undead corpses, smash Noxus plants, protect wardens, battle risen.
Run the undead horde. I don't.
Burn bodies. Burn undead corpses, smash Noxus plants, protect wardens. Ugh. I also have, like, a very simple idea for a chess game. Just because I want to try it myself. Like, I played chess in the past. There's always, like, one thing that I just want to change. Like, one little simple thing that would completely change the whole game of chess. So I literally just need someone that knows how to program a 2D chess game and then change one thing for me. I guarantee it would probably have somebody that plays it. Where the heck are these corpses at? I'm not a super picky guy either. Like, if like a dev company or whatever wants to build the game for me, you know, just give me like a, I don't know, like a special in-game thing or like 1%. Just give me like 1%. I'm fine with that. You give me like 300, 400 bucks a month, I'm solid, okay? You take whatever idea you want out of my head and you give me 400 bucks a month to pay my house bills. And I'm golden. Other than that, I'm fine. I'll be the cheapest worker you've ever had for your game company, okay? I'm chock full of ideas. It's worth your investment. You got a game idea? I will flush out the details, okay? I will help you. 400 bucks a month. And you might think to yourself, like, that world might be kind of bland with just like humans and stuff in it. It's not just humans, my guy. I got all the stuff planned out. I have completely different creature types that would all make sense for them to be sort of parallel to each other in each zone, you know? Even slotted in a place for orcs in the game that would make sense. Whole thing around it. Okay. Look at that. 4 silver for that. Anyway, someone get a hold of the Scum devs or ANET. Alright. Have them hire me. $400 a month, okay? But I get to keep the job that I'm at now, and I get to, you know, work from home or something, you know? We gotta have, like, I have to be able to make my own money, but, like, 400 bucks a month, I will work for you, okay? I have the time at my job to do it. Or if you know, like, a super good game designer that, like, is on Twitch somewhere and wants to build a game. Oh yeah, yeah. These tags are everyone has these tags. I don't know what you're talking about. They just don't use them. I completely missed that hero point. Fairly new. I mean, this character is gonna be a pretty like seemingly new character. I'm gonna be using armors that nobody ever uses, and I'm gonna go to meta events, and everyone's gonna complain about my armor choices. I can already see it coming.
Begin destruction protocol.
Begin destruction protocol.
Threshold achieved.
So what are you doing? right click. I am right clicking it. I know that I never really use these options though because I tend to have things that I want to keep in my inventory generally. I guess it doesn't have. I could have swore it had an option for exotic though. Anyway. I'm super rusty on these maps. I have no idea what I'm doing half the time. So you a long-time Guild Wars player, Sadriel?
Dreamers break so easy.
Separate them from their roots. They snap.
Separate them from their roots. Yeah, dreamers. Dream, 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 dream. I feel you. Raid training, gotcha. I'm not much of a meta player myself. My guild fell apart during the pandemic, but we used to be like heavy warrior focused groups with like a bunch of crazy stuff going on.
I am in your debt.
I built a whole political system in the past for our guild. But you'd be surprised how many people don't actually want to lead or do anything in Guild Wars. They want to like just follow, you know? Do you like non-meta players in your raid groups?
Thank you. I should be fine now.
How do you define performing well? That's my question. Is it DPS related? Benchmark numbers? I don't know about people with the benchmark numbers because like I get in debates with people over some stuff because they talk about like warrior DPS and they'll be like, we do 200k DPS. That's the thing though. Like they'll be like, yeah, this warrior build does like 200k DPS, and then like you'll run like a similar setup with everything. Although I didn't put all the conditions and stuff on the bot, I just gave myself all the boons. I was testing out Axe rifle for like a DPS rotation, just to kind of show people that you could use it for something, but mainly just like PvP stuff. But with the boons and nothing else, it was doing like 14k damage with what I was doing, but it was mainly just decapitations. Yeah, it was just like decapitations with axe skills, and then you'd swap over to rifle, burst, volley, swap to axe, back to decapitations. Well, I'm saying that's 14k with just boons, like without any conditions or anything. My whole thing is that I don't know, like I have hybrid builds that can pull like 40 or 50,000 damage potentially, but I don't think I've ever really had any need for like a build that does 200k DPS or whatever. I don't know. I'm just quoting what other warrior people tell me, okay? Every warrior that I talk about anything that's non-meta build-wise, they're always like, my warrior does 200k DPS. And I'm just like, my warrior like tops, like I have tanky build setups that can do like 40 to 50k maybe. That's about it. Like I don't know what they're doing, but yeah, it's just because I have debates about warrior builds for the longest time. Like I don't do like crazy meta stuff. Well, like ever since Guild Wars came out, I've never been a fan of meta warrior builds. Like I just don't like it. I much prefer having a more balanced warrior build that I can I prefer just to do content with warriors in general. Like nobody else, just have my warrior buddies. But well, it's just like it's always been like great sword axe axe. Like it's been like 10 years. It's still like great sword axe axe. Like generally for or whatever. It's always something like that. Yeah. Well, it's like my hybrid build is for like so for warriors for instance, I personally think that core warrior is stronger than the elite specs. Nobody's going to agree with me with it, but I think it is for the most part because I've beat elite specs over the years with core warrior for as long as I can remember. Until like the last year or so, I didn't really bother using the elite specs very much. But with Berserker on the warrior, Berserker with the warrior, you can have 100% damage immunity. So you can go like full Berserker armor, whatever you want, and you can get 100% damage immunity without any problems. But my hybrid warrior build is a celestial warrior. The build was originally made to work in a group of 5 warriors. It has max vulnerability or vulnerability application, weakness application. It can do like 10 to 12,000 damage bleed, 10 to 12,000 damage burn, and about 10 to 12,000 damage physical damage. And the shout heals, it has shout heals and stuff on it. So it heals 2k and removes conditions with Shake It Off on 10-second rotations. And then I had Tempest Ruins, so if you break a stun, you heal for 1100 AoE. So with 5 warriors, you're dropping, 10 to 15k heal bombs every 10 seconds and removing conditions with 100% damage immunity and doing some decent damage with each other. But like it's just like weird stuff like that. Even the builds right now, I'm trying to talk to people about balancing the armors a little bit. I just never bothered with legendary gear. I don't even hardly bother with ascended gear. Like you can see right here, like I mainly run exotics. I'm just now getting to the point where I'm considering ascended gear. But my thing's because I've always liked to do I like doing like 1v1 duels and stuff, and I like doing it in the arena. And I don't mind facing ascended gear with like exotic gear. It doesn't bother me. Like I've always enjoyed the challenge a little bit more. But I've wasted so much money on exotic gear over the years. I mean, if you're training people, I've slowly been getting some new members in here that are like new players. I mean, if they want to learn some of that stuff and you're open to it, I mean, I'm sure they'll probably want to do it at some point. I'm thinking about doing it more so I can get some ascended gear finally.
A dreamer's break so easy.
Separate them from their roots. Yes.
No, but I've had the debates on online with people about the meta groups because the game is getting to a point where like the expansion content might be like more varied and freed, but if they balance all of the new content from meta groups, then lower tier gears are just going to be performing worse and worse as more content comes out. And I'd prefer them to all have a purpose in the game. Yeah, so I don't really care if they balance the damage numbers out specifically to bosses, or if they like have varied conditions that affect bosses or armor types. But I think all the armors should have like some sort of semi-useful way to complete content. Would be really good. Yeah, but the thing is that content is gonna eventually like keep going, you know? If they want to keep people interested, they're gonna have to keep like spicing things up. And then there's no reason that any group is gonna want to take a lower DPS character for no reason, you know? Well, I'm sure you know the build and rotation, but I'm saying that players shouldn't be forced into a specific build to complete content with other people. Like this character that I'm playing right now, I just made. My game plan with this guy is I'm going to use lower tier gears that people generally don't use. So soldier gear, sentinel gear. I'm still going to run berserker on them. I'm probably going to put rabbits back on them. I don't have much problem with people in game, but like people online talking about the game's probably like the most vicious I've ever seen any community within a video game. But when it comes to build like with content, I mean, I mainly play warrior, and I think warrior is completely capable of doing most things without much issue, without having to have a very specialized build. Yeah. Yeah, I've learned that. I've played a bunch of different games over the years. I got my karma on Reddit and stuff up like really high just from like playing different games, figuring out build combinations or fast ways to level skills and posting about them and stuff. And I came to the Guild Wars 2 Reddit, my account was like destroyed. And literally like basically I went through and I was making like lore posts and stuff. I was going through the game finding lore pieces for game theory, and people just absolutely hated it. I had a big debate not too long ago about armor balance, though. It was like a DPS character, though. And he was talking about metagroups and how, like, they don't want to change gear. They want to use, like, the same gear. Yeah, my main account's banned, too, on there. My second account's slowly getting its karma back, but I'm just posting like less, I guess. I mean, there's still fairly sensitive stuff. I'm just still asking people about their ideas, and they still downvote it. Uh, but no, I had a debate on with a guy there about the future of game content because meta groups and meta DPS and all that stuff. Because like berserker gear or like high DPS gear is tended to be like a normal thing. Well, like there was a point in the past where there's like bosses immune to crit damage, and I was talking about how like if they did that or made it to where like crit and condition damage was like more toned down against like big bosses, it would make the combat like easier to say scale or have people be more equal footing while doing it. And DPS wise, like against specifically the boss, if you have a DPS build and like a build using soldier gear, they'd be fairly similar damage wise to the boss, but the DPS would still do more damage to like mobs or like boss like hearts or like orbs that they need to be destroyed. But if you had soldier gear, you'd still be, semi-useful and would be more durable. So like you wouldn't be able to just make one mistake and then get your whole group killed, and then everybody hates you and doesn't let you play with them. Was like the whole thing I was talking about, and they just would not accept it because they want like super efficient metagroups. Mainly, they're complaining about wasted stats. They said that makes your wasted stats on bosses. But it's like you have utility. Even if you have wasted stats, you have utility. Gamer Haven. That's part of the reason why I want to make this character using low tier gear though. Because on the warrior specifically, I've played it long enough that I know that you can do some crazy build combinations that work. And I went on the build editor while I was at work today. Speaking of which, I need to start going to bed here in a minute. But I was looking at soldier gear and sentinel gear on the warrior, and honestly, like you can do soldier gear, almost get to 4,000 power, and you can get to 300% bonus damage with ferocity. And so you can have high armor, or at least like pretty high armor, higher health, a good amount of burst damage without like a bunch of the negative side effects. But DPS wise, you're going to fall short, especially on a core warrior. But if you were fighting like a DPS warrior, like one-on-one or even like in group fights, their damage would be like super reduced on you because basically there's a skill that I never used in the past, is balance stance. And the fact that it gives you immunity to critical hits, the only reason I thought about using this was because all the DPS players online complaining about wasted stat points. So like literally balance stance, you're immune to critical hits. They basically lose all those stat points when they're fighting you, and then it's basically y'all are trading with the same amount of like power, but you have way more health and armor than they do. They'll die, 100%. They'll die or they'll run away.
What may I offer you?
But kind of, I was thinking about this the other day too. So like the crit, or not crit, the 5% damage increase on physical damage for like say a DPS warrior. If you're doing 10,000 damage a hit, 5% increase is only like 500 damage. But if you're stacking might and stuff on a warrior anyway, you're automatically getting bonus condition damage. Because Fury and Might on the Warrior give you condition damage. And so if you take like the arms trait, or if you take the bleed on crit sigil, even though it's only every 2 seconds, you can actually get equal to or more bleed than you would for the 5%. But I guess it just depends on how much total damage you're doing. You could stack both of them if you really wanted to. Must be a marker somewhere. Yeah, I'm probably going to hop off here in a minute, though. I can't stay up too late because I got 2 more days of work.
Time to blaze a trail.
I mean, I theory craft a lot. I spend way too much money on armor. Yeah, I know that's the benefit of Legendary, but I really hate crafting in games. And if I didn't build armor, the other thing is that I personally like my characters to have different looks and styles, and if I had Legendary gear, I would never make new characters. That's the other thing. Because I have like 10 warriors. Like, I've had hundreds of warriors over the years, but I have like 10 still right now. All that gold and time I could have saved. All I'm trying to do is get like a group of warriors together and test out 5-man warrior teams against content. It's like people say rifles trash for warrior. I say it's misunderstood. Because like warriors, even though their weapons might not do the max DPS of other things, they have more utility. And rifles, they can pierce. And warriors can get 12 seconds unblockable. About a 20-second recharge.
During your travel,
Your rifle burst can do like 20k, and then with Berserker you can do 20k quick succession bursts back to back. But if you have a 5-man warrior team, even if you're only doing 5k damage, you could one-shot a whole group of players if they're standing next to each other. It's 25k, POW, piercing, unblockable, full engage while they're all half health. You only need like 1 or 2 big DPS characters probably. Different, yes, but I don't think that max DPS metagroups are necessary, generally. I didn't find anything really interesting about Bladesworn. Like, when I saw it, like, I looked at the traits and stuff. I don't really like the weapon. I mean, it does good damage, but, like, versus my build, like, any of my builds, the Bladesworn would literally do 0 damage to it. So the high BTS wouldn't really do much. It's just good for killing things. The thing that threw me off is, so people that show me that Bladesworn build, and they all, like, especially on Reddit, they all quote like Lord Horizon or whatever his name is, and they show me this video of him using this DPS like Bladesworn build that's supposed to be like the biggest meta thing or whatever. And I'm just looking at him playing in solo play, and he's using his little dash skill and dodging like every 2 seconds. And he's hitting for like 15k bursts and then like 100k bursts every now and then. But the thing is, like, my character can do 50k damage and literally stand in one spot fighting the same people that he did. So like his build might do more total DPS if he was actually attacking, but if your build does a bunch of DPS, but you can't stand and actually hit your enemy without dying, then you're losing DPS by moving around. So it's just kind of, I don't know. With a group with a bunch of people, you can run full DPS no problem, but I'm much more interested in beating all the game content with a full group of warriors than I would be beating game content with min-maxed healers and stuff. There's not really much interest for me in that. I think warriors playing together could probably do all the content pretty easy. Finding the group is the problem. I'll take a group of warriors against pretty much anything in the game. That's how confident I am in the class, alright? Go and get this waypoint. Yeah, I need to do the Ascalonian Catacombs. I don't know if I want to do dungeons and grab dungeon armor for this character, or if I want to play this one with, like, only playing with gear that I find and not buying anything. I don't know. I want to do, like, a no-buying playthrough at some point, but...
This is most remarkable.
It's kind of like, I know you probably haven't watched me very much, but every now and then you'll see me do a walking challenge. And, like, basically it's walking speed through the whole game and fighting. And I'll have people team up with me to do the challenge sometimes. And they literally can't survive combat. Like, and like EOD, I had like 2 people following me. And we came into these forests, and for some reason they were taking aggro off of my character, and they just got mollywopped. They weren't even walking. It gets... Alright, I'll probably hop off right after this, though. Alright. Alright. Y'all guys have a good one. Thanks for tuning in if you tuned in. And I'll see y'all guys probably tomorrow or Monday, depending on how much work I gotta do.